Your last CROP-QVS this week is going to be your question. The hardest one for me to write because it's easy to not have a great question. So as you kind of watch me write them in both versions, remember you have two choices. You can either choose a question for the short version of the homework sheet, or you can choose this long loose leaf section that you're looking at now. I prefer that version over the other one. Remember this week, the only thing you're doing after you watch all of these videos is one crop, and you should do one that I've modeled. I shouldn't see summaries, okay? All right, so as we get ready to dive into this and you look at the length of a question, here we have the short version of the question, and my big question every time I read this book is the holiday season. Mrs. Baker's husband is, of course, fighting in Vietnam, and that is extremely upsetting, would be upsetting for me. I live separated from my family a lot of the time, and that upsets me, and my family isn't fighting in a war. So here, again, she chooses not to celebrate the holidays at all, even though she's a teacher and has a bunch of kids. So here you can see Mrs. Baker's a great teacher. She has high expectations for her students and differentiates her instruction. She also pushes her students when she gets to know how smart they are. I know her husband is in Vietnam, but I wonder why she doesn't celebrate for her students. And you can see there's not a lot of detail there. It's not amazing and awesome, but it does get the job done. It asks a question, it has support. The one that I prefer is the long version. That's this one here. And you can see here is that version. Today I am going to pose a question about the Wednesday Wars again. I underline the title by Gary D. Schmidt, and I have the author. On page 59, Mrs. Baker took down all of the holiday ornaments. Quote, Mrs. Baker didn't put anything up, nothing at all. She took down the menorah, and she wouldn't let any of Charles' signs into the room. Now you can notice I used ellipses. There are parts I didn't need there, and that's okay. Mrs. Baker also took the crock of apple cider from Mrs. Kabakoff and shoved it on the high shelf in the coat room above the moldering lunches. Unquote. I forgot my quotes there. My question, underlined, is that I wonder why Mrs. Baker isn't putting up ornaments and holiday items for the students. You don't stop there. You continue. She has pushed Holling with challenging material and differentiated diagramming sentences for her students. You can see where I've added detail from your homework sheet, where here you can give a little bit more. She helped Holling with cream puffs and rolled her eyes about testing. I know her husband is in Vietnam, but shouldn't she still push for her students to celebrate? Maybe she's struggling because Mrs. Biggio's husband died, and this has made her worry about Tybalt Baker, her husband. And you'll notice here that I tried to answer the question, okay? So there's your examples. You can, of course, pause, and you can root through this as you try to do your own. And don't forget, you can always shoot me an email and ask for help, or we can figure out a way to get that done as well, okay? Here is your complete CROP-QVS if you decide to do it this way, again, the way that I prefer. You have to do one this week. You don't have to write down any of these models because all of these models will be on the website. You just have to put them on Explain Everything, and they'll be up on Monday morning. See ya.